Welcome back. You're now tuned in to Sold in 60, the one and only timeshare podcast in the world. And it's your boy Richie Rich, and my right hand man, down payment Dillan. And today, you already know what time it is. It's time to dig in. We got another great guest in the house, and I'm about to introduce him. This week, we got our homie, all the way from New York City, relocated to Florida, in the timeshare game. Can't wait to tap in and hear his journey. This is our guy, Mr. Taylor. What's good, Big T? What's good?
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness, that I'm with celebrities, because I am one of your top fans of the show. So thank you.
That's what's up. Yo, as a matter of fact, I don't even know how you found the show or how we even discussed the show, but let's get into that. For the people that's watching, I think this is an interesting situation. So how did you even hear about the podcast or anything like that?
Well, when I worked at Sheraton Vistana Resort Marriott, and shortly after that, I became aware of your show, and I started listening to it religiously. And two of my favorite episodes, one with Christian Morales and the other with Atik, a Moroccan. Well, actually, before that, no, I think that I searched on Spotify and YouTube for this type of content, and I found somebody named Joanna, and then I came across your show. But I didn't dive in yet at that point because I had not started working at Sheraton. So, like you say, the only timeshare podcast
in the world.
I had to come back to it.
That's what's up. You know that?
Yeah, that's dope.
I don't know who Joanna is. I know there's another person out there that had something a couple while ago. I think she's in Hawaii or something, but that's what's up, man. So you said Chris Morales and Atik. Shout out to Chris Morales. He's a beast. Someone the other day texted me from Singer Island. They were watching the show and they texted me and said, "Who's this guy?" And I said, he's a salesperson. And he said, "Just a salesperson? This kid is amazing. He must be a beast." And I was like, yeah, he is a beast, you know? So that's what's up. And we love to have people like you and Christian, every guest that has come through these doors that take time to share what they've learned, share their journey or their concerns, what made them successful, what made them fail. And, we all learn together. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate you coming through.
For sure.
Man, that's what's up. So before we get into the, because we want to know your journey. You know what I mean? I think that, this is put together for us in this community that we really had nothing to search for. We had, just like you, a regular person starts in the business, like, okay, how can I learn to be better? Because they damn sure ain't teaching us there in their training or on the floor. So, tell us about the journey, because people don't know that most companies don't hire people without experience. And you must have a resume that said, we need this guy. He's clean, he's knowledgeable, he sold big ticket items. So what was that journey like? How did you even get into the doors for Marriott?
For sure. So as you said, I'm from New York. I worked in real estate since I was 23. And at some point, having grown up in New York and lived there for a long time, I got tired of the winters and I wanted to move out west. And I moved to LA. And I found that it's difficult to break into real estate in LA when you don't have local connections. I think I took that for granted, that being from there, I knew a lot of people and I had made a lot of connections in the business. And as you know, being from Queens, in New York City, most people rent their homes, 70%, in fact. And so if you want quick money, which is difficult to make in real estate brokerage, then you will try doing rentals, or when you get your license and you go to a brokerage, they'll tell you to do rentals. So that's what I did. Although in the first 4 months of having my real estate license, I made a whopping total of $600 because I got my license in September of 2008. And by that fall, the Lehman crisis happened and not a lot of transactions were happening. But I stuck with it. And so I worked in brokerage, and then I worked for a management company because people said you can either chase property or you can chase people. So I worked for a couple different management companies, and then looking for a change, I went out to LA. And as I said, it was very difficult to become established there because I didn't know a lot of people. I worked on a team, and they said they would feed me leads, but they were pitching heat. We'll come back to that later. We'll come back to the heat. I always enjoyed visiting Las Vegas, and being a 4-hour drive versus a 5 or 6 hour flight, whatever it is, from New York. I moved to Vegas after LA, and I looked for a job, and one of the better jobs in town in Vegas is timeshare. So I worked for Wyndham in Frontline and at Grand Desert, which is a huge site, which when I was there, which was 2017, they had between 100 and 120 reps.
Okay.
And
Monster house.
For sure. And if you go to Vegas, the first body snatcher you will encounter is at McCarran Airport, and the next one is probably before you even check in. There might be one on the casino floor. So a huge number of visitors there go on presentations. So that's where I became aware of the timeshare industry, and I thought that I was a good salesperson because I had some professional success as a rental agent in New York. But people go out looking for apartments, for vehicles. If I would show an apartment, I would talk about where the people like to eat, where they were from, things like that. And then I would allow them to ask me questions, and I would try to sell them based on what they were interested in. In other words, why show them the kitchen if they tell me that they never, they only order food.
Right.
So, being exposed to the sales process and the training with Wyndham, which they call play to win, elevated me as a salesperson. And I did some deals, but I felt that whatever I was told, you can make $200,000 a year plus, it was harder than it seemed. And a lot of the reps at that particular site who had success wanted to go to Discovery, which is also called Encore, or I think Westgate calls it Avoa.
Yeah.
And they would complain. And in Las Vegas, there's a large community of Lebanese people. Here we have a lot of Moroccans. I'm actually part Lebanese. My last name is Lebanese. So I thought, well, I mean, if there's a bunch of Lebanese people here, this has got to be a good job, right? But I only lived in Las Vegas for 6 months. I was moving back to New York to be closer to family, and I went back into traditional real estate for several years. And it wasn't until I moved to Florida, and that was when I applied to Marriott. The reason I was interested in Marriott is because I thought that it's a great product. It has the higher end properties. It allows you to use it for hotels, Ritz-Carltons, things like that. Marriott has some smaller tracks where they don't want people without experience. And I was asked, why was your experience at Wyndham brief in my interview? I let them know that it was based on the amount of time that I worked there. And I also had some exposure to commercial real estate, retail leasing, and what I was told was that don't get in the weeds. Keep it very simple when you're doing a presentation. Use the sales skills that you've learned, but commercial real estate doesn't involve a lot of emotion, and timeshare sales is a transfer of emotion.
Right.
It's a very different sale. Business to business, commercial brokerage. McDonald's knows what type of site they need, whereas timeshare, it's about creating a connection with the family, making a friend, and finding out how our product will change their life for the better.
Absolutely. So like commercial is more black and white. It's the numbers. Either we're going profitable or not profitable.
Yep. Either we can find what that business needs in order to open a new location or whatever it is, or you have to wait 6 months for it to become available, or you have to dig a little deeper or try to get them interested in a new location. There's zero emotion. It's straightforward. It's numbers.
At what point did it click for you when you're doing your timeshare journey? At what point did it click to where you knew 100% for a fact you knew exactly what you were doing and what you were trying to accomplish with each family? Because I know in the beginning you were probably trying to still find your way, but at what moment did you say, okay, I know what I have to do with each guest that comes in here?
I would love to tell you that it was the easiest transition,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, because for me, with traditional real estate, it's more about volume and numbers. And if the person that I'm in contact with doesn't want what I'm offering, whether that's an apartment rental in New York or it's a client that needs commercial real estate, then I would just go on to the next person. But if you are in timeshare and you're getting 1 to 2 opportunities a day, then it's more important to flush out that opportunity to make sure that you're not missing it. In fact, in past episodes, I've heard you say, DPD, that you thought you had nothing, and then you either brought the TO or you said something else, or you dropped the price, or you showed them the unit, and there was a deal. So, like, if you have a residential real estate customer and you have, let's say, 10 or 12 touches with that person over a year, maybe the 10th, 11th, or even 14th touch, they'll finally say, you know what, actually we need a 4th bedroom because my wife just got pregnant or whatever. And that now you have something going. And with timeshare, it's much more condensed. In 90 minutes or 2 hours, you need them to say no to you 10 times or 14 times before you say something, or before they say, all right, we've gotten out all of our rehearsed objections, and now we're going to really get into the deal, and we're gonna start the real talk.
Yeah. They say the real deal doesn't start until the numbers come out. That's what they say.
For sure. So for me, it took a while. I would say at first I was a little bit reluctant or a little bit reticent to call people out if they were lying to me, or I would forget that these people signed up for a timeshare presentation, which is something that I would never do. I've stayed at a Hilton resort where somebody tried to sell me a mini vac or a vacation package, and I knew that would result in a timeshare presentation, and I don't care how much that would save me. I'm not going to spend a couple hours with someone on a presentation while I have limited vacation time.
Right.
But these other people will. And it could be because they have the slightest bit of interest in that product, or they like buying things, or they love vacation, or they own 3 other timeshares or whatever. Or it could be that it's impossible to close them and they're timeshare hoes.
For sure.
Timeshare hoes for sure. I don't think people know what they sign up for. I think they don't. Some of them. I think a lot of them don't know what they sign up for. You do first time buyer, correct?
I do. I had a brief experience with Wyndham a second time around with in-house, and I was told that it would suit my personality because of being more analytical and having experience with commercial, which is a non-emotional sale. And I found, and now we'll get back to the heat, that, and this speaks to your last episode, which is better, frontline or in-house. And my experience is that in-house tends to pitch more heat. And I've observed reps, and this speaks to what Christian Morales said. It might not be frontline versus in-house. It might be who's the rep and what are they pitching. But what I've seen is people say your maintenance is going to double in 4 months, and you need to get out of your deed and into a trust, or if they're in the trust, they need to get. And the customer might tell you, oh, we've heard this pitch before. We actually did get out of the deed and into the trust, and now you're telling me to go from the trust to the deed. They might know the pitch better than the rep, honestly.
Yeah, that happens.
So I didn't like that. It doesn't matter whether I'm analytical or not. Everyone can be moved by emotion, and everyone has a family, and everyone has a reason to go on vacation.
I think that what you just said, like they've heard the pitch before. I think at every resort, especially at in-house, there's a pitch that's repetitive. Like I don't know much about that part, the trust and the deed, but some resorts have weeks where they have every other year or every year, and there's a pitch for that, and then people say, I heard that one before. You told me to go to every other year. Now you're telling me to go to every year. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you're right. But so you've been on both sides. Who has more? Like, speak for the viewers that are watching and don't know what he said. He's talking about heat. What is the definition of heat? What's the definition of heat?
Heat is when you spice up your pitch. In other words, lie to make the product or the opportunity seem more appealing to the customer, to cause them to act at that moment. In other words, lie to get a deal. However,
that was a well-described definition.
That's well-described.
We should have a day where we do timeshare jargon. I'm sorry.
That was well-defined, for
continue.
Sure. But heat can have varying levels. And one thing that I found...
You have habanero, you have light, mild, medium. You know, there's levels to this.
You could take out the seeds or you can leave them in. Right. How spicy do you want it?
For sure. For sure.
And it could be that there's an ounce of truth in it, or it could be a complete lie. But one thing that I've noticed at certain resorts is that they will have some sort of compliance that you have to go through during onboarding. And they might say, these are the things that you absolutely cannot say. But depending on the resort and depending on the company, there might be a very aggressive wink and a nudge to say, under no circumstances should you say this. Say this.
Right.
Yeah, it's sure. Almost like they bring it up because they want you to say it. Yeah. One of them is almost every resort has a credit card offering. Mm-hmm. And I have observed reps who the compliance training says you should never fill out the application for the credit card, and you must let this person know that they're applying for a credit card. Mm-hmm. And the opposite happens, that the rep fills in the form and doesn't tell them they're applying for a credit card. And then when it asks for the customer's income, no matter who's in front of you, you put in $400,000.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. You've seen this one too?
For sure. Yeah.
Oh, they read this book before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. You're right about that.
Just going back, just to throw this out there, because I just got a call just recently, about 2 days ago. A lady was applying for a position at a resort, and she's thinking she's answering honestly and ethically, right? She's telling them that I don't know what the question they asked her was, but basically she was trying to say, I would never lie about a product or push anybody to do something that wouldn't fit them. So needless to say, she didn't get the job. But they told her that's the reason why we're not hiring you. Mm-hmm. When we asked you this, you said X, Y, and Z. We don't think you're a good fit for this position. Mm-hmm. Wow, and why? You know what I'm saying? Like, this person's trying to say, I'm going to represent the company to the fullest. I'm not going to lie. And that was the same reason why she didn't get the job. Mm-hmm. She was new to the industry too. She was new to timeshare, but so yeah.
I was asked an interview question like that before. That the question was, they looked at my resume and they saw that I worked in rentals in New York, and they said, let's just say that you have someone who applies with a Section 8 voucher for an apartment in New York, and you know that particular building has a rat infestation. The customer is applying sight unseen. They have no awareness of the conditions of the apartment or the building. They just need housing. Would you disclose a rat infestation to this customer? And what I told them was that is not a specific condition that is legally required to disclose in New York. However, I would, if I were in that position, I would contact the property manager and ask them what the status of that was, and ask them to make every effort to seal any openings in the unit. Mm-hmm. It's not that I would want that person to have a bad situation, but there's only so much that you can do under the circumstances. And I've lived in New York, and I've seen cockroaches, mice, and I've stepped on a rat when I was coming off the subway by accident. So, but the underlying question is, are you the type of person that's going to talk somebody out of a deal, or are you going to talk somebody into the deal?
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that top reps, the reps that are, making 100+ a year, have you ever noticed they don't share their pitch like the reps that are in the break room waiting for a tour?
Absolutely. And there's a specific rep that I think we all know of or know personally who worked frontline and in-house. And he famously offered his pitch for $1,000. He would sort of sell people on it. And then if he was going to your table, he would take you off the table so that you did not hear his pitch.
Well, what's your thoughts on that, D? I mean, you think a person should sell their pitch for a G?
I mean, I don't think it's right. First of all, if we're all co-workers and I want to see you win and I want to see my co-workers win, I should be sharing the pitch if I want to see
They do not want to see their co-workers win. They don't give a fuck about you.
Of course, I see that.
You know how people look at when a new class comes in? They're like, "Oh my God, more people."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Another rep. They don't give a damn about your success
because you're gonna take their spot. And
some people live for the fame of being the top writer, number one, the top 5 or whatever recognition. But carry on.
Well, I would just say it like this: us as human beings, we naturally cannot hold water. For instance, if I tell you, "Hey, I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody." 9 times out of 10, you're going to tell somebody. You know what I'm saying? Why is it that top reps are not sharing their secrets, right? Because if you ask me, they're pitching heat. They're lying. Yes. There's some type of lie, there's some type of scheme in their pitch that they don't want out. They don't want that out. I would say that's why they don't share.
Yeah. You can say that. Yeah. I've shared my pitch with people if they come in there having a challenge in a certain area. But I don't just go saying, "Hey, check it out," you know? And I believe that I almost paid somebody for their pitch. When I heard that they had a pitch, I'm like, well, let's go. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want actually I approached the gentleman for a pitch and offered him, Spanish guy. He was writing wild business. He was like, I don't know how much, he did crazy volume. But he took only Spanish tours, and he was writing like wild numbers. And I told him, "Yo, I'll pay you for the pitch. I'll give you a stack." And he didn't know what a stack. I said, "I'll give you $1,000." And he was like, "Oh, you good." Like, didn't want to give, you know what I'm saying? But that was Jose.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He did not need the dinero. No, I think you already know the pitch. But what I was always told, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that we can imagine what the pitch is. But I think the beautiful thing about timeshare is that it's not a zero-sum game. In other words, if you win, that I lose. We can all win together. So I always thought that the reason that they wouldn't share the pitch is because of competition. It's where they are on the wheel. But the secondary thing is that they probably are pitching heat, and they don't want people to know that.
Absolutely.
Some people don't care if you know that they're pitching heat.
That's true.
Because they're going to pitch it no matter what, whether you know it or not. But that speaks to what you were asking about earlier: is how did I make that transition from real estate? And it's that you need to have full confidence in what you're saying. Which is to say that you must know your pitch extremely well. You should memorize it.
Know your product.
Absolutely.
Know your
product. You should love your product. And there's this book, How to Make $30K in 30 Days, which was going around the sales floor when I started working at a Sheraton resort. And the author of it, Christopher Cadella, who worked for Wyndham and Capital, said that he would type out his pitch every single morning, and he would write it in Microsoft Word, and this helped him memorize it so that at any point in his presentation, if he were interrupted by the guest, he could go back to it and he knew it cold. And it doesn't sound rehearsed. It sounds natural. And he's also a great example of pitching in question mode, that he might have an idea of Ideally, you know the answer to the question before you ask it, just like an attorney.
Shout out to what's his last name?
Chris Kudela, Kudela.
Shout out to Chris Kudela.
I'm not getting any kickback.
Yeah, no,
I don't know this.
This show is not sponsored by Chris or Coco Chico, whoever that is. However, right. I read the book too, so I do want to give him his flowers. He did say some things in there that I did like. He has a cool, intense day. The guy, it's a real direct, forward book where he talks very, it's rough. He's straight up. He's almost like a Christian Morales. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's very raw. But he said some things in the book that was stuff like a good intent statement, and he gives a nice analogy for how the point system works and how you can get your points back every year. What's it called? How to make $30K in 30 days?
That's right.
All right. We'll send him an invoice for this promotion. But
for sure.
I read the book. It's an easy read, too.
It is.
If you're not a reader, it's definitely worth the read. I think I told you that I read it.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned that book to me before. Yeah. Speaking of the will, I heard you say the will. I'm curious. Have you ever witnessed firsthand of a company playing with the rotation wheel as far as who gets what tour, or I'm going to save this rep for this specific tour, or anything like that?
I do think that. And based on listening to this show, you had made the suggestion multiple times, if you don't have success at one resort, go to another.
Absolutely.
And I took that suggestion before, and I had a brief experience at Holiday Inn Club Vacations Orange Lake.
Orange Lake, okay.
And that's it's a great resort. It's the largest single-site timeshare resort in the world. And they do not have a vehicle for showing reps where they are on the wheel. They have a PA system where you're just called, and and they have a lot of longevity amongst their reps. People stay there for a long time because the longer you're there, the higher your commission is.
Got you.
And the reps would tell you, I have been here for 16 years and I've got no fucking clue how this works.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some method to the madness for sure. I do believe. And again, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, the luck of the rotation. And we've talked about this too. Regardless if the resort is playing with the wheel, you still have to do your part and go out there and sell that family at the end of the day. For sure. I agree.
Absolutely.
So you did trainings at different places. You mentioned to me earlier that you've seen different styles of training. So which training was the best? Which one was the weakest? Which one was not even a training?
Well, Marriott trains for 4 weeks, and the first 2 weeks are virtual. 1 week is in person, and the final week is doing ride-alongs for 5 consecutive days. And the virtual trainings are helpful for product knowledge, and they're helpful for the company background, but a lot of reps don't want to go through a month of training because it's a month that they're definitely not going to be making commissions. And if Marriott wants experienced reps, then that's a big ask, I would say.
True story.
Capital Vacations has 1 week of training, and it's relatively light. However, they have a lot of trainings on a daily basis, 1 to 2 trainings once you're there, so they can fill in gaps that might have been missed during the original training. The best I was told, I've never worked at Westgate, but I was told that the best trainer is Rich Roberts and the best training is Westgate. However, the best training that I've been through is Holiday Inn. It was extremely professional, and it's scripted, and they tell you, we've been doing this at this particular resort for 43 years. This is exactly what we say, and this is exactly how we want you to say it. Once you become a rep, the trainers and managers will do rides, and they are not shy about giving you feedback and additional assignments to make sure that you are staying on script and that you're not missing steps. And I do think that it's important to have a process. I also think that it's important to talk the way that your guest talks and to relate to them, because if you're transferring emotion, then it's important to make a friend and to build rapport with that person. And the one criticism I would say of the Holiday Inn script is that a lot of people don't talk the way that their script is. Yeah. They tell you in a teaser, I'm going to show you a tremendous opportunity today. Yeah. And the reason they say that, they say that if your pitch sounds like everyone else, then people will tune you out. If you say tremendous, they're like, oh, tremendous opportunity, really? Yeah. What is this guy got for me?
Yeah.
So I think that there's different schools of thought on that. That you can just talk to somebody like you're talking to your friend, or you could be a little bit more maybe salesy and use a lot of language that is unusual in regular conversation that may get someone's attention.
Yeah. When it gets time to let's say walk that thin line or that gray line, how far are you willing to play that game? So for instance, if a guest asks you, hey, can I sell this unit? Are you going to help me rent this out so to take care of my maintenance and taxes? What are some of your replies to questions like that?
Well, Holiday Inn doesn't want you to pitch rental at all. And Wyndham has been moving away from the rental pitch because there were reps and individuals that did so much rental that owners cannot get the inventory that they want, and Wyndham had to take specific actions to dial that back. And I've heard that about Disney as well. That now you have to have if someone else uses your ownership, you need them to be your family, your friend. But if you can use it, share it, will it, sell it, and rent it, then I'm okay pitching that. Unless I'm specifically told not to.
Right.
So I was always told that the gray area is okay, but I like to stay in touch with my people, and like Christian Morales, I would want to pitch myself as part of their ownership because it builds trust, and I don't want to be afraid of talking to my customers. If I've gone to great lengths to build rapport and make a friend, then it's incongruous for me to abandon them afterwards. And I have talked to people about ways of renting out their ownership, and I've been asked that after the rescission period, and I've answered it honestly. The places that I've had gray areas are maybe in resale, because it's impossible to predict how much value it could have. But when people come into the presentation and say, I would never buy this because it has no resale value, I see them for $1 all the time, that's something that I would challenge, because typically those are weeks that don't have a lot of value, and the dollar is not true, because if you did take action on that and inquired, you would find that there's a fee to the broker that's handling it, there's title fees, there's transfer fees. It's still a real estate transaction. So $1 becomes several thousands of dollars. Does that mean that $1 timeshare has a lot of value? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost $1, I can tell you that much.
Yeah. And even if it does, I mean, I tell a person, just because the person's selling it doesn't mean that they haven't had the enjoyment or got a return on the investment of that product. If I bought it 20 years ago and I used it, and whatever happens, I no longer want it, if I'm willing to let it go for $1, I've got the enjoyment out of it. I definitely got my money's worth. So don't think that's the value of it because that's what they're letting it go for.
That's right. And I've also been told, I hear a lot of ads about timeshare exit companies.
Whoa,
and
the ads
my
are heavy.
response to that is the timeshare exit companies are more of a scam than the scam that you're alleging.
Yeah,
because they're
that's
going to
funny.
charge you thousands of dollars to do something that you could do for free. If you have an outstanding balance to the IRS and for taxes that you didn't pay by accident or on purpose, and then you hire an accountant or a tax attorney and pay that person thousands of dollars to communicate with the IRS, that's a choice that you can make. But the IRS has payment plans. They have a taxpayer advocacy service where you can say, hey, I really messed up and I owe this and I'm willing to work it out, and that's for free.
Yeah.
So you can, if you can't pay for your timeshare anymore because of hardship, you can call up the timeshare company and say, I can't pay this, or you can just stop paying them. They'll call you.
For sure, absolutely. What about so it sounds like you've only worked at points-based companies.
That's true.
Okay, so what's your take on weeks-based companies, if you know anything about that?
Well, one question that I sometimes get is, if I buy this, then I have a guarantee that I can go where I want when I run, right? And what I don't say to them, well, you should be on a Westgate presentation. If you definitely want New Year's Eve in Las Vegas or New York, then you need to buy that week at Westgate, because that's not something I can help you with. What I tell them is that this is not perfect. It's better than the alternative. And if you buy this, then we can, let's say you buy a Marriott and you want to, for example, book the Marriott timeshare property in Vegas, the Grand Chateau, for New Year's Eve, and you try to do that a week before New Year's, well, it's probably booked because there's a finite amount of rooms, even if you, whether you own or not. However, you can use your points and go to a Marriott hotel. We can get you there, but if you're doing it that last minute, then you're still subject to reality.
Right.
You know, if you're trying to go to a particular property that has 200 accommodations and they're all booked, even if you bought the property, you still have to honor the reservations.
Yeah.
So, I think that there are advantages to buying specific dates. I know a family in New York where they like to go to Aruba every single Christmas as a family, and for them it made a lot of sense to buy that particular week, and they love that timeshare. But for most people, like Atik said, like one of my favorite of your guests, is the timeshare, that points-based timeshare has the most flexibility.
For sure. Absolutely. And it can be manipulated as far as the sales rep, because you can say, oh, well, we can use it for your Disney tickets and your airline tickets and your, whatever,
That's true. Airfare, cruises, car rentals.
All that.
I'm still going for weeks. I'm still on the weeks.
Got you.
I feel like I just feel like the weeks are
Simpler
simple
to explain.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to manage. $1 bill or 100 pennies.
Yeah.
That's my clothes.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, all right. So has anyone ever done a break-even analysis? Have any of you ever done that?
Mm-mm.
Like versus like the cost of continuously renting versus owning?
Mm-mm.
You've shown me that before.
Yeah, that shit sucks. It's a long-term play. Ownership is a long-term play.
I've shifted my opinion of that,
Okay.
because if my product, it gets you out of a hotel room where you have one bedroom if you have one room with 2 beds and 1 bathroom versus an entire condo, how much more should my product cost than the hotel room that you're currently staying in? My sister has 2 kids, a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old. And if they stayed in a hotel room, then the amount of time that it would take them to get ready in the morning with
one bathroom,
realistically 4 adults, and it's not comfortable for them to sleep in. There's not enough beds. There's not enough space. There's 1 bathroom. If you look at it on a quality comparison and you look at what it would cost to have a 2 or 3 bedroom condo in terms of dollars, and you compare that to a hotel room, and I'm not saying that your analysis is wrong,
no, bring it on.
but I have shifted my perspective on this, and Kristen Morales talks about loving your product. If you don't believe in the product, you won't be able to sell it properly. So I don't know that it's necessarily a lot less expensive unless you calculate inflation. But I think the quality that you get is substantially more than going on Expedia, spending your time trying to find 1 or 2 hotel rooms, and being a renter.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this question. It sounds like you've had some, background definitely in sales in general. So when you take your commercial experience that you had, a little bit of residential experience that you had, and you take the timeshare experience that you had, taking into account of how much work goes into a commercial deal or a residential deal or a timeshare deal, and also taking into account of the commissions, the commission checks. When you look at commercial, residential, and timeshare, where would you say is, the most amount of money you can make with the less or the least amount of, effort put into it? Which category, commercial, residential, or timeshare, would you say, hey, if you want to work less hours, make the most money, this would be the place to go?
That's a great question. That's exactly what made me go to timeshare, because I had commercial deals that I thought that would be a tremendous financial windfall that did not materialize, including a dispensary deal that I spent 7 months on, and the dispensary company actually started paying my client rent, and I did not get paid on that transaction because they rescinded the dispensary rescinded their they didn't get approved for a permit in that location. So the cost of
that was 7 months worth of work that you've been with the client, and that's crazy.
And he was under no legal obligation to compensate me, and I had done a lot of other work for him that I did get paid on. So he said sorry, and that was it. He didn't say, hey, let me take you to a nice dinner or anything like that at all. Yeah. What I like about timeshare is not only that you don't have to pay for your own marketing and pay to gain clients, but the volume of it. That every single day you could get 1 to 3 new opportunities at a higher commission rate than I've ever been able to get in traditional real estate. The challenge of it is that it's a roller coaster, and that it's seasonal, and that you can't always control the quality of the people that are in front of you.
Absolutely.
But what Chris Cadella says in this book is that timeshare can be a great way to fill your bank account very quickly, and that if you have a presentation that's on point, if you believe in your product and you love it, if you're confident with people, if you relate to them in I don't want to say an extreme way, but you want to like what they like. Cadella takes it to the extreme and says if the guy's a doctor, then I tell him I always wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid. If he likes NASCAR, then he's their favorite driver is his favorite driver.
For sure.
If they're gay, then he sucks their dick.
Yes.
He said that in the book.
He says it in the book. I like him.
He said that it tastes like a thumb.
Yeah. Chris, we need you on the show.
Damn.
Word. So being like, what would you say? We talk about TOs a lot sometimes. So any experience you have with a TO that you said they need to fix this as far as how TOs come to the table, work the back end?
That varies a lot based on what resort you're at. At Holiday Inn, even if you have the worst tour in the world, that you have people that won't pay interest, that would never buy a timeshare, whether they have too many or whether they're timeshare hoes or whatever, you cannot turn that tour over to, at Holiday Inn they call it Latitudes, Discovery of O, whatever. You absolutely have no ability as a rep to get rid of that tour without the TO coming over. And in fact, that tour has left their car like a mile away, and you've taken them to this other sales center. They're going to take that to the end and try to sell them, whether it's not the package that you have to offer, they're going to then eventually give it to Latitudes. Other places are more relaxed about it. At Marriott, I've had TOs say, this person was rude to me and I will not go to your table. The only way I'll go is when I review the checklist. So I think what you guys said on the last episode is on point, that you as a rep may be burnt out with these people, and you may have heard the 14th no, but you need to get to the 15th no to gain traction with that tour. And it's in everyone's best interest, whether you're pocket watching the manager or not. I've also had reps that sort of cut off their nose to spite their face, where at certain resorts you could get another rep to bump your table. Maybe they're from the same hometown, maybe they speak the same language, or they have something in common where you have the opportunity to have multiple people to come to your table. And if you're going to give that secondary rep, rep A, rep B is going to get 30%. Isn't it better to get 70% of something than 0% of zero?
For sure. For
sure. I think that even if I think I have nothing that I will do a halftime. I'll ask the rep if there's something else or the TO if there's something else I can say. I'll ask them to come over. I'm not as into looking for rep B unless there's a language issue. That depends on the resort.
So you don't. It doesn't sound like you spin tours.
I try not to, even if I'm getting information that tells me that I should.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think every TO should go to the table. You just never know. Sometimes it's just about the bottom line, the numbers. Even though they've been telling you, no, we would never buy it. I think sometimes it just takes. We've seen it, and I think that some companies are strict on that because, again, just because you feel there's nothing there or you feel there's nothing there, don't mean that I can't send something to make it click and work it, opposed to just letting it go. Not to say that they don't watch you on the table while you pitching to see if there's interest. Do you have at each resort? Are you seeing that the TOs are like watching your body language and the dynamics on the table while you're pitching?
I'll tell you something that happened on my tour today. I picked up the tour. It was two unrelated women who are not in a relationship with each other except as friends. And one of them basically didn't speak English at all, and the other had very limited English skills. So I immediately asked my TO for a Spanish-speaking B rep. And the director, my manager, my team captain, because my resort has those on their teams, and other managers were all watching. And one manager, I later found out, told my manager to take me off the table because he didn't think that I understood Spanish. Mm-hmm. My comprehension is decent enough. I had some rapport in English and the very little Spanish that we could speak with each other. And ultimately, the B rep, who had great rapport in Spanish, was not as strong with numbers. Mm. And while we didn't get that deal, it was extremely close. And we spent almost 3 hours together. And I did something that I learned from you, Rich, is that I actually broke down the monthly into a daily payment, which was $3.60. Yeah. The other thing I did was we took the monthly with the loan and the monthly maintenance, and I added that all up on an annualized basis, and then I deducted this particular resort has referral fees. Mm-hmm. If you as an owner refer 3 people to us, we'll give you $1,500, and you can do that every single year. Mm-hmm. So I took the total annual, and then I deducted the $1,500, and then I gave her a monthly base on that, and then a daily base on that. And she was texting her daughter to ask her if she would do it. Nice. Again, it didn't get the deal, but it took her past the 12th no or 13th no, and she very strongly considered it. She said, I'll come back with my daughter and buy it, which is BS, but still.
Right. Well, good work, by the way. Oh, as long as you gave it 110%, you know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
That's real talk.
0% of the commission, but
some people get good surveys.
That's right.
Word.
How are you starting your day on the way to work? What are you thinking? What's going through your mind? Or do you have specific goals that you have to hit, or are you just going to work hoping for a deal?
I have goals that are written out on my mirror. I have a vision board at home, and the particular resort that we work at, we had to submit vision boards to our director, and his office walls are completely covered with the reps' vision boards.
I like that. That's nice. We did that.
It's cool. So I think about that a lot. I try to keep a positive mindset. I do believe in manifestation, and I love Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and a lot of other books. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. And I really believe if you bring a ton of enthusiasm and you believe in your product and you make a friend and you build that rapport, and you assume the sale throughout, even when you're told no for the 12th time, you must continue to assume the sale. And when they're telling you no, and you just say, all we need to do is fill in a little bit of paperwork. It'll be another 25 minutes. Yeah. You'll be in Hawaii before you know it. Yeah. And by the way, you'll be at Disney, which I know you have tickets for. I know you keep telling me you need to go to Disney. They are still, if they're still listening to you and they're still in front of you, then you can continue to pitch. I really believe that. So positivity is huge, and I've observed that in myself when I was in a slump and I had I was sort of in a more negative place, then the deals would not come, and I think people could sense it. If you're selling every day or you're doubling down, and you have the air that your customer should buy and that they will buy, then it can happen. I had a couple that then this was a day that I had doubled down. It was in the afternoon. They came in, they told me no. They were on their way to a baseball game that was 90 minutes or 2 hours away. They had to go the whole time. And the wife was more in the deal than the husband. And the after property and showing numbers, they said, can we just go smoke a cigarette and we'll be right back? And I started to fill in their paperwork with the information that I had on the tour sheet. And they came back in and the wife said, oh, wow, he's already started filling it in. And they did the deal.
Nice.
Get out of here. Wow.
And then for income, you put 400,000.
Yo, the cool thing is that they came back. I've had families say, hey, we're gonna run to the unit real quick. We'll be right back, or we're gonna run to the car, be right back, and they never, they never came back. You know, that's funny.
When you get a feedback or somebody that said, let's go talk about it real quick, and they come back and do it, it's like a great feeling. Like, oh shoot, you know what I'm saying? Because most of the time when they go out, they talk themselves out of it.
Right.
Do you follow up after a deal?
I do, and a lot of resorts now. I mean, I have. Not many years of experience, but I noticed that this year, especially during the tariffs, that there was very high rates of cancellation. That some resorts were 30%, some were even 50%. So many resorts instituted mandatory follow-ups first in email, and some of them have multiple touch points that include 2 phone calls and an email. And I think that's extremely important because and I also think that it's good to cut through whatever you think they might be thinking. Oh, hey, listen, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to say, wow, we just spent a lot of money and we're on vacation. And you might go home and there might be someone who's kind of negative, who's kind of a naysayer, who might have a negative opinion of timeshare. And just know that they were not on the presentation and that the product is going to do for you everything that we discussed. And if that comes up for you and you have any doubts, I would just ask you to call me and we can discuss it, and I can talk to you and I'll talk to your family or whatever.
So wait, some resorts are helping you understand to talk about buyer's remorse?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
I
You
think
can't
it's
go
good.
wrong with
Especially if you're on a first-time buyer type of track,
that.
Like, it's definitely going to come across your mind.
I think the people that'll start doing that is people that have had cancellations, and you'll learn, okay, well, man, I don't want any more cancellations. I should probably start reaching out to my family now and, building that relationship within the next 10 days. For sure.
Absolutely. And to put them back into the emotional realm, which is where they make their decisions. Because most resorts, when they first purchase, they have no access to their online portal. They can't make any reservations probably for 30 to 60 days. So they're left with an invoice, essentially, for a huge amount of money and a commitment, and they have a limited time window to get rid of it. Reviews are a huge problem. If you can go over reviews while you're with that family in person and say, hey, do you have an iPhone? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? Have you ever written a review about it? I know your story, Rich, about is it Fleming's that you like? Yeah. Your story about Fleming's is a great one. That the only time you wrote a review was after eating there many times and then having a negative experience. And most people, if everything goes as planned, don't have time to do reviews. And you could even say to them, our owners are enjoying their vacation. They don't have time to go on their phone to say that they everything was perfect with their vacation. They're too busy looking at their photos. And some resorts do this. If they have a podium, they might say, hey, we have a 91% satisfaction rating or 93% satisfaction rating. You can review it on the property and say, do our guests look like they're in distress to you? I mean, maybe if they're playing Marco Polo and the one kid is dunking the other one head under the water, humor is helpful. Talking to them like your friend or your family, But most timeshare companies have scathing reviews from someone who either doesn't know how the product works or they had a problem with it. And that's true for probably every single restaurant and hotel and high ticket product out there.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on if I'm a son or a daughter? I'm the children of an owner. So I'm just telling you, I'm getting my parents' own. They're going to pass theirs down to me. So, I'm good. I don't need my own. What's your take on that? What would be your angle knowing that, let's say in the, meet and greet, I'm telling you this. What would you say to me? Or how would you play that tour?
Well, maybe I would spin that tour. I'm just kidding.
That's funny.
That is a very difficult objection, and it's one that I've had, and I've been on a tour with someone who literally knew my resort better than me.
Yeah.
And when I showed him the model, he compared it to other accommodations on the property that I wasn't even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's difficult. However, on the flip side of it, if the parent was closed, then the child could be closed. And at least that child or adult child, whatever, has probably a favorable opinion of timeshare. You've, Rich, shared that you're a timeshare baby. So, as far as mindset, I wouldn't let it throw you off. I would try to do more discovery. Is that, how many siblings do they have? Is that enough points for the family? Who's going to inherit it? Have you had that conversation before?
Yeah.
If they own with another company, do you love that company? Is there anything you don't like about it? Have you ever traded are you here as an exchanger or are you here on a minivac package? If they're on a minivac package, they don't have enough points. And they have some interest in your brand. If the parent owns 1 million points with Wyndham and they're about to retire, maybe those points are going to be all accounted for because the parents are going to travel more and there won't be any left over for the kid. So why not try out Marriott? You've got RCI, you can do those weeks. We have Interval. That gets you to Disney. That gets you to the better half of the timeshare resorts. You can go to 4 seasons on this, maybe for $300-400 a week, when you could be renting that for $600 or $700 a day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That boy good.
Yeah.
Listen.
Actually, this is probably a perfect interview right now because he's on point with everything.
First of all, he's built for in-house. That was the in-house pitch.
Yeah,
that was hard.
Yeah. And you've had little experience. You said just under a year, a little over a year. Yeah, man. You know your stuff for sure.
Thanks.
For sure.
Well, I'm just going to let the crowd just drop the mic on that one.
Yeah.
Take that one, play that part back in the back end, and that's how you get sold in 60.
For sure. I'm trying to throw him off his game, but he's on point.
That's what's up.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, man.
That's what's up.
Appreciate it.
So you don't see timeshare. A lot of people say timeshare is. Some people say timeshare is dying, or it's only a couple more years before it's all over. Do you see the timeshare industry flourishing and continuing to go in the upward direction, or do you see some doom in the future for timeshare?
ARDA says that it's growing, and that I don't remember if it's 8 or 10% of American households own timeshare. I've heard people say, what about Airbnb and VRBO taking market share from timeshare? And I looked into that and I found that Airbnb represents only 4% of the vacation industry. So I think that that young people, their dream is to do remote work and be mobile, that mobility is the new form of wealth. And I think that timeshare is a great way to do it. I think it makes financial sense for people who it can be an elite product for elite people, but it also can be an affordable way to get a lot of value in a big accommodation for somebody that has a larger family.
For sure.
And I still see that, even though people are, I guess, having less kids than they used to. That's not everyone, and we see a lot of international people where they have a lot of kids, or they're in their culture they travel with their family. I think for multi-generational families, it makes a ton of sense. And for all the people that do travel that way, multi-generational, they want privacy, so, and then if the major brands, Hilton is expanding, Wyndham continues to expand, Marriott is building new resorts, Capital is the fastest growing brand in the industry, that demand is coming from millennials, I'm told, from younger people, not as much from retirees.
I'm hearing that too.
Well,
sure.
Let's not, for the listeners that's listening, I don't want this to go over your head. You mentioned ARDA, and many people that's listening don't know what ARDA is or what it stands for. So it's the American Resort Development Association. If you want to stay in the game and stay on top of your game so you can have a rebuttal like that, you might want to go to their site and stay in the loop. I mean, yes, you got sold in 60, but there's other resources that have information about the industry. So how did you learn about ARDA?
ARDA is, I guess, at Marriott. There are statistics that are quoted by Marriott that came from ARDA. I think most it's the Oscars of timeshare. Bonnet Creek has been recognized by ARDA awards. Holiday and Club Vacations, Orange Lake, and it's a great information for new reps or reps that want to sharpen their axe, that they can have certain statistics that to use as rebuttals. Oh, well, nobody buys timeshare anymore. Well, that's not what the numbers are saying.
Right. There's
Now
over 20 million owners in the world and growing.
For sure. My word of caution as a more analytical person is to not go down that rabbit hole and be too logical, to keep it in to keep your customer in the emotional realm. But for the engineer or some guest that's more analytical, then that can be helpful. I was always told the emotion is what causes the customer to buy, and that sale is justified on logic. So it might be something to keep them in the deal, but it's not going to cause them to buy necessarily.
One thing that I like listening to you speak is that you're not just selling a pipe dream, you're throwing in some, baby negatives also. Kind of like earlier when you said, hey, you can book this, but if you're going to book it, 2-3 days before the 4th of July, then you're not going to get it. It's good to be transparent, throw in some baby negatives and let them know everything is not all peaches and cream. So that's good, for sure.
Appreciate that. I wish I had come up with it.
That's what's up, man.
I was always told that helps build trust.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
This is from Holiday Inn, that it's not a perfect product, but it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, I like it.
For sure.
That's what's up, man. We appreciate you, big bro.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you coming through.
For sure. I know a lot of new reps that's listening to this. They're gonna listen to this, and they're gonna be. This is gonna be a top episode. I can tell you for sure. For sure, especially for a new rep.
Thanks.
So our next guest that comes in they're gonna be like, my top episode was Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor. That's dope.
What's up, man? Now we appreciate you coming through. For all of you that's watching, please continue to like, subscribe, share, comment. The comments that we get is really how we know who we touching, and they relate. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate that. We shouted out a few people last week that took some time out to write some stuff. They DM'd us or they wrote on the episode. So continue to do that.
For sure. Reach out to us on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Factual Films. Reach out to us. If there's any specific topic that you want to hear, definitely drop it in the comments and we'll cover it next episode.
And I hope you enjoyed today's episode, because that's how you get sold in 60.
And we out.